Hi everybody, Joe Chambers here with ChambersCustom and 1911 University, bringing you another mathematical review. Before we get started, as always, I want to remind you that the gun we're going to talk about is a sample of one. It may or may not be indicative of what you can buy at your local gun store or your favorite dealer. So keep that in mind as we're looking at the math. Not all of these guns, especially the production guns, are created equal. These manufacturers make large runs of guns at one time, and they have a tolerance range that they deal with that sometimes is better or worse than what we may see. Alright, with that, we're going to get into this review. Everybody's been waiting on this review. People have been talking about this gun for the past couple of weeks. I have titled this video The Spaghetti Western of 1911s, 2011s. You all know what it is. It's the brand new Springfield Prodigy 1911 DS. This is a double stack, wide body 2011 style gun. They can't call it a 2011 because, well, Staccato owns that. This particular sample came to me from a client friend who bought it new, paid full retail, attempted to fire 150 rounds through the gun. It would not cycle. He couldn't get it to run even a magazine without having multiple malfunctions, failures to feed mostly, with some failures to extract and eject. These guns come standard with ambi thumb safeties, grip safety, polymer wide body grip. Appears to be a long 3-hole trigger. They have a wedge lock barrel, bull barrel. They feature the agency AOS plate system, which is a nice plate system. It doesn't sit as low as the ChambersCustom RDMS, but it is a very nice system and way to put your dot on there if you want a dot on there. So why did I call it the Spaghetti Western of 2011s? Well, because on this particular gun that came to me for review and to fix, there is good, bad, and just plain ugly. So we're going to talk about all of those things as we go through the measurements. This review will be a little bit longer because I'm going to elaborate on some of the things that I found on the gun and why they're causing the problems that they're causing. You know, this project for Springfield has been in the works for approximately 2 years, and there's a lot of us in the industry that knew that it was going on, just couldn't or didn't say anything about it. I personally think that it's not a bad thing to have more competition in the market when it comes to production guns, because it gives people more options, more places to spend their money. And the reason that I do these reviews, as most of you know who are watching this, is to just inform you on the math and talk to you about some of the issues that may or may not arise with a particular gun and how you can resolve those issues to some degree, and so that you can make an educated decision on how to spend your money. It's a very competitive market, the 2011 world, and there's some good companies out there, and there's some companies out there that could do better. All right. So as I said, this gun has about 150 rounds attempted fired through it. Probably about 120 actual rounds got fired through it. It was experiencing failures to feed, failures to extract and eject. It's a full-size version of the gun. One of the things that I really don't like about the gun right out of the box is it has a 2-piece guide rod that requires a wrench to take out. Now, this is 2022, that's the year, and I don't understand why Springfield used the 2-piece guide rod. That's 1998 technology, and they would like it back. So that would be one of the changes I would personally make to this gun myself, is to put a toolless guide rod in there, whether you use the one that Staccato uses or whether you use a regular one with a hole in it where you use a paper clip like we use here at ChambersCustom. Doesn't matter. Just don't want to have to use a wrench to take my gun apart. The gun is Cerakoted, apparently. It looks very clean, very nice. It's got caulking serrations on the front and rear. It's got the multiple slots for the light rail on the bottom for the tactical light rail, which personally I like one where my light's going to go. The stippling on the grip I like. It surprised me. When I saw the pictures of it, I was like, oh, I bet that's not very grippy at all. But actually, the grip has quite a bit of grit to it. I do wish they'd have carried the stippling up underneath the trigger guard, but they didn't. So, you know, it is what it is. And I wish they would have carried the stippling around on the mainspring housing, but again, they didn't. So, you know, that's just the way it is. Overall appearance of the gun, I like it. It's a nice, clean looking gun. It's got a fiber optic front sight. They did fully blend in the front sight dovetail, which, you know, that's something you don't even see on many custom guns today. Of, you know, guns that cost 3 or 4 times this amount of money that are built one at a time by hand. Guys don't even care to do that. So that's a nice touch. I like that. I like the high cut of the grip. And yeah, so all in all, it's a fairly nice looking gun. I just wish it would function for the guy, so that's what we're going to talk about now. Let's get into it. Remember, math don't lie. 3.14 is always pi. All right, the barrel, as we talked about, is a wedge lock bull barrel style, and its OD is .6953, and the slide ID is .7008 for a difference of .005, so 5.5 thousandths. The barrel does move up and down in the front. You can feel it moving. So there's not much lockup up front, which is also partly because of how the back end of the barrel is fit, and we'll talk about that shortly. The chamber depth on the gun is .755. Now, those of you who have followed me know that we do a .756 on our 9mm, so it's not far off there. Here's the ugly, though. We just skipped right over the bad. We'll get to some of the bad things. We've talked about some of the good things, but here's the real ugly about the chamber. It is reamed at a taper like a 9mm chamber should be. However, when I measured it on the inside of the chamber, what I found was the front of the chamber measures .383 and the rear of the chamber measures .390. And you might say, well, why is this a problem, Joe? Well, it's a problem because according to the case dimension prints for a 9mm Luger round, the front of the cartridge is .380 and the rear of the cartridge is .391. So the chamber on this barrel is actually smaller than your standard 9mm round, which means the round is going to have a lot of problems getting into the chamber. It's going to stall out before it can fully close the slide on the barrel. I tried 3 different kinds of ammunition. I put 124 grain Norma in. It would not go in the barrel. I tried 115 grain S&B. It would not go in the barrel. I tried 115 grain Magtech. It would not go in the barrel. The only 2 rounds that I found that would go into the barrel were my own personal hand loads, which are crimped pretty heavily because of what they are, and also some reloads, some remanufactured ammo from Spark Munitions. And those are lead bullets, so they're crimped pretty heavily as well. All right, slide stop pinhole in the frame is .2015, and the slide stop pin diameter is .1987 for a difference of .0045, so 4.5 thousandths. There is a noticeable flat spots on the slide stop, which is MIM, where it has barrel bump. It's smacking pretty well. Now, will that beat itself into submission eventually? Yes. Unfortunately, that means you're going to have to replace the part. But one of the good things about the way this gun is made is Springfield used the same geometry that I used on my 2019 wide bodies when they did the slide stop pinhole. They put it in relation to the frame rails in the same location as the single stack guns that they build, which is according to the Colt print. So when all the issues on this gun are fixed and corrected, this gun should shoot really, really lightly. It should have very minimal recoil and be very flat in the hand. Up next we have Extractor. We're back to ugly. The Extractor in this gun measures 2.230, which is a little shorter than we would normally want one. However, it does have proper breech face to extractor hook gap of 70 thousandths. It has 6 thousandths 4.5 movement when it's in the gun with the firing pin and spring and plate all in place. But here's where the issue is. The Extractor is extremely poorly fit. It has two ledges on the Extractor hook, so I'm not sure which one is supposed to pull the round out, but one of them will, I guess. The nose of the Extractor is smashing into the barrel when the barrel comes back into battery, when the slide goes into battery. And there's also some noticeable tool marks that were either not deburred or left on there for some reason on the Extractor. Yeah, this is one of the worst Extractors fits I've ever seen in any gun ever, especially on a production gun. You know, most of these production guns are just dropping the Extractor in and rolling. Well, that's what they did with this one, and they should have given it a second look. Ejector length is 1.220, which is 120 thousandths longer than I would prefer on a 9mm. However, it is at the right angle, so it's easy to correct. At least it's not too short. Alright, so let's get into barrel fit. The barrel has approximately 10 to 20% contact on the lower legs with the slide stop. Not great, but better than a lot of guns that we've seen come in here. There's a lot of barrel bump, and that's caused by one of a couple things. First up is the slide stop hole in the link is 0.2035. I like to see that hole oblonged a little bit from the maker at 0.208, 209. That allows a little clearance for the barrel when it comes back into battery to not smack into the slide stop. So that's easily corrected. The barrel leg height is 0.1005 and 0.101 respectively, so that's very good, very consistent. And the link bridge thickness is appropriately sized at 0.975, so you have a difference of 3 to 3.5 thousandths between the link bridge being shorter than the barrel legs, which is exactly what you want to see on one of these guns. You don't want a link rider. So I think, based on my experience building guns and working on guns, that if we took this gun and we fixed the slide stop hole in the link, made it the proper length, made some minor adjustments on the barrel legs to prevent bump, and fit a 200,000 slide stop that's not made of MIM so it won't break, that we're probably going to get pretty good barrel fit out of this gun. That's my guess. Alright, now we talk about the slide to frame fit. And you guys know that I'm pretty staunch about how good a slide to frame fit should be if you want the gun to last a long time. And I'm going to tell you up front the measurements, and then we're going to talk about how I feel about this and what I see. Slide way width, so the width of the inside of the slide is 0.7545. Frame rail width is 0.7515, so that's 0.003, 3 thousandths tolerance. Slide way height, 0.10275. Frame rail height, 0.09975, for a difference of 0.003, 3 thousandths. Slide rail height, 0.1175, and frame way height, 0.1205, for a difference of 0.003, 3 thousandths. Alright, here's where we get into another part of the good on this gun. This gun has, based on my measurements, one of the most consistent slide to frames on any production gun I've ever measured. I am quite frankly impressed. And those of you who know me, been following me a while, you know I don't get impressed about guns very often, but I'm definitely impressed by the slide to frame fit on this particular sample of the new Springfield Prodigy. The consistency of measurement as well as the tightness of measurement is really, really nice. Typically on these 2011 style guns, these double stack style guns, what you're going to see is one of the up and down measurements is pretty good, usually 3 to 4 thousandths, and the other one is wildly off. You know, somewhere in the, I've seen them as low as 9, and I've seen them as high as 15 thousandths. Well, what that means is as the gun cycles repeatedly when you're shooting it, the slide is going like this on the frame, depending on how much tolerance you have. The more tolerance you have, the more gap you have, the more up and down you can have when the slide is cycling, more pivoting, and so the faster the gun is going to wear out. So by making this particular sample with 3,000s up and down in each place, you're going to have a gun that the slide to frame fit lasts a lot longer on, assuming you keep it well lubricated and assuming you keep it relatively clean. That means your barrel fit's going to last longer also, which means your accuracy is going to last longer as well. Now, side to side being at 3,000s, you know, it's not terrible. It's not exceptional. I've certainly seen worse. I've rarely in a production gun seen a side to side slide to frame fit better than 3,000s. So I would say, you know, slide to frame fit on this gun is really quite excellent for a production fit gun. Now, if you're getting a gun that's hand built, or you're paying $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for a gun, I would certainly expect a slightly better slide to frame fit. But for a gun that retails for $1,600, that's pretty amazing. And I hope that the other samples that I get in prove me right in that they have the same kind of slide to frame fit, because that's refreshing, to be totally honest with you. You guys don't realize how often we see guns that are really bad in the slide to frame fit area. Vertical impact surface on the frame is 0.480 and on the barrel is 0.482, so it's flip-flopped from how it should be. And there's no issues with the barrel dropping. There's no timing issues. It drops just fine. I did the timing checks on it, but that's because the link is short, and once we open up the link, we'll have to correct the barrel viz so that it's slightly shorter than the frame viz, so the barrel has an opportunity to drop down out of the way. Trigger parts. This is the bad. The trigger measures 5 pounds on my NRA scales, which that in itself is not a big deal. However, there are 3 stages to the trigger. I mean, my AUG had a better trigger pull out of the box than this gun did, and that's terrible. That's just bad. The disconnector is an unmodified drop-in part at 1.2915. The sear is an unmodified part at 0.776, and the hammer hooks are not dressed for over traveler bump, and they measure 0.021. So all those are, you know, basic, within reasonable specs of the parts. They are made of MEM. You may choose to replace them with some bar stock parts, but the last thing that we'll talk about as far as ugly goes is the slide stalling on the disconnector. And this is a real issue. The slide literally will stall and it'll hang up on the disconnector. And when I was doing a YouTube video on this the other night, I was actually able to make it stop on the disconnector itself and stay there. So what happens when the slide stalls out on the disconnector like that is it interrupts the feeding cycle. The gun can't feed cleanly. It can't strip the round off the magazine cleanly and put it into the chamber. And so people are out there screeching that their barrel feed ramp geometry is bad and all this stuff. On this particular sample, there's nothing wrong with the barrel feed ramp geometry, okay? I've looked at it, I measured it, it's fine. Does it overhang inside the frame a little bit? Yeah, but it's not a huge deal. Your mag may hit it. It's okay. But when the slide stalls on the disconnector so hard, the slide doesn't have any momentum to put the gun back into battery. Part of this is caused because they have a 25-pound mainspring in the gun. I measured it on my scale that I measure all the springs on. I thought I was wrong at first, so I remeasured it again. I wasn't wrong. It's 25 pounds in this particular gun. And the recoil spring is a 9-pound recoil spring. So when you fire the gun, it has to overcome the mainspring by cycling back. It's used up a bunch of energy, a bunch of recoil energy to do that. Now as it comes back forward, because the recoil spring is so light, and because the disconnector leaf on the sear spring is so strong, it's stalling the slide out on the disconnector and preventing the gun from feeding smoothly back into battery. So that is part of why, along with the chamber being undercut, this gun refuses to function. So there you have it, the new Springfield Prodigy This is a sample of one. Like I said, you know, you may get one that works perfectly fine, or you may get one and you may have the same kinds of issues. But now, if you get one and you have these kinds of issues, at least you'll know where to start looking to get some resolution to it. Everybody always asks me, you know, Joe, would you buy one of these? Personally, would I pay the retail price on one of these? No, I wouldn't personally. I would buy one at dealer cost, do some tuning up to it, and it would make for a fine truck gun, or, you know, a boating gun or whatever, you know, knock around gun to have laying around when I have friends over that want to shoot something different. But yeah, there you have it. The math doesn't lie. There are things on this gun that are really, really good, and there's things on this gun that just need improvement. They're not good at all. So with that, I'm Joe Chambers at ChambersCustom in 1911 University. Thank you for watching. If you like this content and you'd like to see more mathematical reviews of guns, you can check me out on patreon.com/1911 University. And remember, math don't lie. 3.14 is always pi.